He's temporarily alighted in Montreal. His influences include Borges and Nabokov, and the latter, Nabokov, and the gamesmanship that leads you to places dark and deep and delicious. Something very evident in Miguel's debut novels. There was a friend of mine, Joseph O'Connor, writing in The Guardian in a review of Illustrated, Miguel's fantastic work. Joe O'Connor wrote, "A writer already touched by greatness." And in the words of the 2008 Man-Asian Booker panel of judges, writing about Ilustrado, which Miguel won, it says, "Ilustrado possesses formal ambition, linguistic inventiveness, and socio-political insight in the most satisfying measure. Brilliantly conceived and stylishly executed, it covers a large and tumultuous historical period with seemingly effortless skill." Would you please give our esteemed panel a very warm welcome? I do apologise, that's the longest introduction I've given.
I started writing journalism to pay the bills, and I continued writing short stories in Philippine journalism and anywhere else. And, you know, if you can't get published, I guess you keep studying it, you keep trying.
Of course.
You know, I don't know if you're into boxing, but one of my heroes is Manny Pacquiao.
Okay, you know, I mean, not that into boxing, but I think Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, exactly. He just keeps studying, he just keeps going. And that's, I take a lot of heart from that, you know. I mean, I just put myself into the ring, I train, and I keep on going. I still couldn't get published after I graduated from a master's degree.
Despite having written, you were finding agents, you were putting pieces out?
I was sending out to agents, I was putting pieces out, I was trying to find a publisher, nobody wanted my stuff. Newspapers, magazines, nobody wanted any of my stories. So I decided to go back to school. Did a PhD in creative writing.
Also in New York?
No, in Australia. And that was there where I started writing Ilustrado. But it was a long, hard road. I didn't always have work at newspapers. I did all sorts of very hard jobs, you know. I mean, I worked as an assistant to a bookie at the horse races. I painted houses. My favorite job, actually, and I'll tell you this story, was I just moved to Montreal after finishing my degree in Australia, and rent was due, and I needed to pay the bills. And so I'd go online to the online classified ads, and I see this ad for medical guinea pigs. So I trudged through the snow to the university, McGill University, and I find out that well, they're paying $150 per session, which is great because I needed to pay rent, and it was 3 sessions, and it's just about as much as I needed. And I was completing the book, I really needed the money. And it turns out that they were doing experiments to see if they could use a thermal imaging camera to treat erectile dysfunction.
Right.
Yeah, so they put me in the room, they asked me to take off my pants, and they point this thermal imaging camera at genitals. And they pointed at me, and this is for science, of course, so it's okay to speak about it, I think. And they make me put on these...
We'll let Miriam be the judge of that.
These video...
Let's call it gentleman's area.
These video goggles, and they make me watch 2 nature documentaries, a pornographic clip, and then another nature documentary. And that's fun to get paid for. Well, but the thing is, I'm sitting there with no pants, camera pointed at me.
Not the most erotic of experiences,
I'm thinking, do I really want to be a writer that badly? Luckily, Ilustrado was finally picked up in 2008, and
oh
it all
God.
changed.
Thank God, thank God.
I beg you to buy my book, so
yeah. The things you have to do.
My next question so far has to be, what advice, Miguel, would you give to a young aspiring writer as to how far they push until they can go?
How far would you go?
But I did, though. I can't give that
Sorry,
advice.
what did you say, Mohammed? I'm not sure we didn't hear.
Don't take your pants off.
Don't take your pants off. Well,
rich and long tradition of oral literature. And because of our colonial experience, in many ways we've sort of lost that. And I think, my theory is that songs and jokes have replaced that. And in the Philippines, jokes are very, very important. It's the way we understand ourselves. It's the way we communicate and deal with the hardships in the country. In many ways, we don't even care about the punchline. We all know the punchlines. We all know the jokes. But it's sort of like a sharing thing that we have. We sit around, we drink beer, and we talk and we make jokes. And normally, they're very corny. But what I've done with this in my book is comprised of several different narrative threads. And one of them is a series of jokes concerning this fellow named Boy Bastos, who is a character that all Filipinos know. You know, when you're a kid, you tell Boy Bastos jokes.
So you're about to read from the last chapter. You're gonna ruin the story for me.
It's okay. There's a lot more to it.
It's not a thriller.
No.
It's thrilling, but not a thriller.
I'm just gonna say thanks.
I have to be so careful. It's like being the United Nations.
So I'm going to read a joke that exists in the Philippine consciousness, but that I've used to illustrate the way things work in the country. I remember the last joke I shared with him. Boy Bastos' daughter, Girlie, asks her father, "Daddy, what is politics?" Boy is very proud of her inquisitiveness. As he's gotten older, spent and rebuilt a small inheritance his father Erning left him, risen in politics, watched his daughter grow, witnessed his son being born, seen his marriage shed its glitter, he's realized that our greatest doom is to raise children who will repeat our mistakes. This is something he knows he doesn't want. He says, "Well, girly girl, let me explain it this way. First, I'm the head of the family, so you can call me the president. Your mom makes the rules, so you can call her the government. We're here to take care of your needs, so we can call you the people. Your nanny Inday works for us, and we pay her for her work, so we'll call her the working class. And your baby brother Junior, let's call him the future. Now think about that and see if it makes sense." Girlie goes to bed, pondering what she's heard. In the middle of the night, Girlie awakens. She hears baby brother Junior crying, so she checks and discovers he's totally crapped in his diaper. Girlie goes to her parents' room to find her mother fast asleep. Unable to wake her because of the sleeping pills taken every night, Girlie goes to her nanny's room. The door, however, is locked. Girlie peeks through the keyhole and sees her father in bed with Inday. Girlie goes back to her own bed. At the breakfast table the next morning, Girlie tells her father and mother, "Daddy, Mommy, I think I understand politics now." Boy is proud. "Wow," he exclaims, "you really are sharp. Explain to us in your own words how politics work." "Well," Girlie begins, "the president is really screwing the working class. And the government doesn't do anything except sleep and sleep. Nobody ever pays attention to the people. And the future, well, the future swims in shit." Boy Bastos kisses his daughter proudly on the head.
Beginnings. Some of us get lost in the isolation. We have this sense of displacement, of being not at home. How was it for you? And would you have written Ilustrado had you stayed in Philippines?
That's a great question. Thank you. I made a good life abroad, but it was very difficult for many, many years. I left my family, left my friends, I left my job. I left a girlfriend who I thought I would eventually marry, but in the end, the long distance tore us apart, and I spent many years heartbroken. So it was tough, but I think it was that toughness, that sense of solitude, did help me find the desire to really write something as true and as honest and as well as beautiful as I could. I find now, living abroad, living in Canada as I do, that I'm able to write more honestly about the Philippines than I would have if I lived there. Because of my own personal circumstances, my parents are in politics. I have friends and family who come from a certain class. And Ilustrado really is an indictment of well, the privileged, the educated elite who have failed our country for centuries, for generations. And I wanted to expose that. I wanted to discuss that as honestly as I could. Also, when I lived in the Philippines, it's because it's such a complicated society and it's so overwhelming sometimes. I found that I developed very thick skin and I tuned out. I didn't want to read the newspapers or read blogs about politics or anything like that. I just wanted to go on with my own life. And writing requires sensitivity, a thin skin. So living abroad, I feel that I'm actually more engaged now with Philippine politics, Philippine history, the Philippine diaspora. The question of who are we as a people, now more than ever. So I do feel that living abroad does help me, but ultimately I hope I can be successful enough to spend half the year in the Philippines, half the year abroad, or every other year, because I do worry about losing track of my roots.
Ay, sorry, dito na naman ako. Ilustrado is very successful. What's next? Do you think it's a
I don't know about tough act to follow. I'll just try to be as honest as I can, work as hard as I can. I think that was the secret to the success of Ilustrado. So I was very honest.